Love sports. My name's Chuck Burge. I'm your host, along with my co-host, Mr. Robert Kenny. Robert, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. That camera seems a little lower than it normally is. I'm looking down at it.
We'll all squelch down. I think we'll be okay.
Now, here goes Larry.
Yeah, Larry's going to take care of it. So
can't say anything on the air without him adjusting.
All the people from Miller's, the place is so packed. All the Miller's people are busy, so we have to bring a guest on as the spokesman for Miller's. It's Harry Backyhead. So Harry Backyhead, what's going on?
What? Who are you?
We got to be something different.
He's in witness protection. He's not allowed to look at the camera.
Harry Backyhead can't look at the camera. So Harry, tell us about what's going on with Miller's this week.
Well, it's Wednesday, so yep. we got I believe it's steak and crab special tonight. There's some wings there. I believe they're $10.99. We got Sean the bartender, who's the best bartender in all of bartendery.
All bartender land.
Yes. We got Alex up front, who's he's great up front.
In the back, he's not so good, but up front, he's fantastic.
You put a freeze at the front door, and you can never go wrong.
There
exactly. We got a lot of fun stuff going on at Miller's this week.
And we got Braves baseball probably a little bit later on tonight.
Yes.
We got
we have the College World Series on right now. Florida just beat TCU 3-2.
And we have LSU and Wake at 7 o'clock, I believe.
Yes.
All right. You got anything else for us, Harry, back your head?
No.
All right. Harry, thanks for stepping in for us, Harry. We appreciate you doing that.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to bring in our real guest, Mr. Matt Fry. Matt, come on in, buddy. Everybody, welcome my good friend, Mr. Madison Garrett, also in the crowd. So, Merritt, say hi to Larry and Adam. So that's our guy, Larry. We need to talk to Madison Garrett.
You know the guy you had on for Miller sounds suspiciously like me.
Yeah, I
thought he was a little nasally as well. He had really good hair, though. He had really good hair.
Harry, back of your head?
Back of your head, yeah.
So, Matt, welcome, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being on here. We have a big LSU fan with us, so that'll kind of balance out all the dog fans that are in mass here. So that's kind of cool.
And when Chuck says all the dog fans, what he really means anybody who doesn't burn effigies because they hate the dog so much. Because if you don't do that, then you must be a dog supporter.
Well, this lady over here, she's got her Georgia Bulldog shirt on.
That's good.
So yeah, huh?
Georgia Fire Academy.
Did she say go dogs? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that says Georgia Fire Academy.
Oh, Georgia Fire Academy. Oh, it says Georgia in his red. So
that goes back to how he judges and how quickly. Yeah, that's a dog fan. Never mind.
Georgia Fire Academy is not nearly as good at football as UGA.
I believe it's down in Forsyth, Georgia. There you go. I got a nod on that. I actually knew something
the Georgia
today.
Fire.
I should leave now.
Yeah. No, don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. So just to let you know, this show is to help support all the guys that are going through prostate cancer and all types of other cancers, and also those that are struggling mentally. We want to help them get through an hour without any stress and any care. And if we can take care of somebody for an hour, you can take care of somebody for an hour, and this world will be a better place. What say ye, Robert?
I agree with thee.
I'm glad. All right. So let's. Caitlin Corral back in the house. Caitlin, welcome back. She had to go home feed her cat, but she works very hard here. So let's get into some sports. It was a kind of wild and wicked weekend, wasn't it?
With the way it was looking, I went out on Friday night, had a date with the wife, and was talking to a guy sitting next to me, a guy named Wade. In case Wade is watching, I told him all about the show. I said, wouldn't it be cool if McElroy won? And when he got up there, he's like, I hate all of you. I hate the ones who took the money. I hate the ones who crowded my back, and just walked away. But it did not happen that way.
Well, you know how much I love McElroy. And I know we all made picks last week, and I came up with, I think I said Scheffler was my first pick. He came in third.
I thought you said Rahm.
No, that was somebody else. Oh, it was you, wasn't it? Said Rahm?
I never say Rahm. But I like
the
Rahm.
other guy? No, I said Scheffler.
He said Justin Rose.
I said Scheffler.
I said Rose, which I am the kiss of death.
I think it was our guest that said Rahm.
I think so.
Yeah, because I definitely said I'd love to pick Rory, but I'm going to go with Scotty. So I went with Scotty. Came in third, which is not first, so I was still wrong. Doesn't matter if they came in second or 100th. You're wrong. You're wrong. So
He hit the best shot of the tournament, though.
oh, the eagle.
Yeah, the hole out.
Yeah, the hole out, 196 yards, I believe it was. That's pretty special, especially when only 3 people had birdied that hole
Correct.
all day, and then he comes in and makes this eagle from 196. Incredible, incredible. Did you watch any of that?
Every shot.
Did you?
Yeah.
So who's your favorite golfer?
Favorite? I don't know. It's hard to say. There's so many stars out there. For me, Scheffler's an easy pick. I pick Brooks. I just think that he's rested, gets out there. It's not the pick I wanted, but you know, when you're making the picks,
Another
you gotta use your head, not
LIV
your
guy.
heart. Right.
Oh God.
Kepka just shows up in these tournaments. No reason not to pick him.
Love him or hate him, the live guys, they took a risk and it seemed to pay off. And you can't
Oh, it
count.
paid off.
You can't count other people's money. So
I hate him.
I can try.
I'll always hate him. I want nothing to do with it.
If I try to count McElroy's money, it turns out I'm going to get finished way before Dustin Johnson's.
that's right. That's right. But these live guys have showed up at these events, so that's why I went with Brooks. And he played well.
He
Top
did.
15.
Yeah, but I don't know if I was telling Robert or somebody else, but every time Dustin Johnson had like a 7 or 8 foot putt, I said, miss it. I was just like on Caddyshack. Miss it, miss it.
Spalding.
I didn't want him to win at all. So, but kudos to the guy that won. I'm blanking on his name.
Wyndham Clark.
Wyndham Clark, yeah. He also won at Quail Hollow about a month ago.
Yes. Wells Fargo.
The Wells Fargo. And I heard he was very emotional
Yes.
when he won. I didn't see that part because
was.
when Rory went down 3, I was done. I didn't want to have anything to do
Just
with it.
impressed that you turned it on, Chuck. I know that was
It was
a
not
close
easy
call
for me
to,
because I will call myself a big fat liar because I did tell everybody a couple of weeks ago that I wasn't going to watch any more golf, but I did watch some. I didn't watch as I did of the Masters because I watched every stroke of every shot and everything. But
and I never watch as much as a lot of my friends do, but man, on the text line, they were loving California golf. Something about not missing anything, and it's on all night long.
yeah,
That's kind of cool.
I would like to play that course because I think I could do well on an 81-yard par 3.
Sure.
I think I could at least get a double par on that
5 iron,
thing.
6 iron, and
Maybe.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
81 yards. I might still need my driver. I don't know about that. There was a time when I could hit a club a long way, but that time's passed.
Can you imagine if Hugh Hefner was still alive?
Well, that was so weird. The part I did see, they were talking about everybody that lived around there. Lionel Richie lived off the 4th tee, and the Playboy Mansion was off the 14th green or something like that. And Judy Garland was here. So,
But if Hefner still was alive and everything else, that would have been like a 4-day party where
But Hugh Hefner wasn't a member of the club. The club specifically doesn't allow celebrities.
yeah. But I did notice that there's a long line.
But if it's
of,
in his backyard, he can do a lot.
there was a
Yeah.
long line of spruce trees
Yeah.
behind the Playboy Mansion and the courts. So anybody don't see anything going on in the Playboy Mansion.
I was
But it was
getting
being
ready to hit the
renovated.
shot of
then.
my life, and all of a sudden, all I can hear is put up some trees.
Yeah, put up some trees. That's fine. That's fine. So, congratulations to Clark. He's not who I pull for, but anybody over a live golfer, sign me up. Americans, sign me up. And now all we've got left for the majors is the British Open coming up. Is it Portrush this year? Is that where it
I
is?
thought it was Royal Liverpool.
Is it Royal Liverpool?
I thought it was.
Yeah. Who's your favorite for that one?
Let's see who's still alive after this live and PGA and.
I'm going to go somebody
Or-
old who hits knockdown 4-irons because that seems to always do well there.
Okay. Someone old. What's old?
Somebody
Somebody
like
who's-
old like me and Carrick old or.
No, they don't let you on the course.
Don't laugh at that, man.
No, somebody who's wise beyond their years and doesn't even bother with a driver or a 3-wood or anything else. No, just going to hit a line drive. They can bounce and roll up the fairway.
Louis Oosthuizen.
Somebody like
That's a
that.
decent pick.
Absolutely.
Well, who was it that had a really?
I'll go Justin Rose right now. Since I already jinxed you last week, I'm
No,
going with you
who
again.
was the British guy? He just turned 51. He won the major, the national tournament for the older guys last year. Wasn't Oosthuizen?
Stricker?
No, wasn't
No.
Stricker? He was a British guy. You know what I'm talking about, right, Adam?
Not Colin
Vaguely.
Montgomery.
No, but he wound up 1 over, and he had a really good tournament. Not Immelman. Wasn't Immelman. No.
He's South African.
See who it was, Adam. That's going to bother me.
Finished 1 over in the U.S. Open.
1 over or
Won the title last year for the senior.
for the seniors. Yeah,
Probably easier
that's
to
how
look
he
it up.
got in.
Big question would be: will you see more fans at the Open than you did this past weekend? That was an interesting take. U.S. Open had it's the corporate Open. It was hard to get people out.
22,000 was
Yeah, it didn't.
all they allowed. Yeah.
It didn't make for great TV on the 18th when you usually see thousands and thousands swarming the green. It was still an electric atmosphere, but it could have been a little bit better. I think they'll have to fix that going into next
It seemed like it seemed like a lot of people.
Audric Harrington.
That's the one. Yeah, a lot of them were following Scheffler and McIlroy.
Yeah.
That was the pairing to watch, I
Sure.
guess. Yeah,
Sure.
And I felt bad for Ricky. I mean, I hated to see him just kind of collapse on Sunday.
Yeah.
But that's a tough little course. I was talking to somebody earlier. I think the course was set up very fair. If you hit the fairway, you had a shot. If you didn't hit the fairway, you didn't have a shot.
Sure.
Yeah, some of that
which
rough
is
was
good,
just brutal.
typical U.S. Open.
That's the way it should have been.
That's how I
yeah.
like all my majors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're welcome back, other than the LIV thing. So, yeah, cool.
I didn't say I supported them, but you got to respect them. You got to respect.
Oh,
the-
no, I don't. But I'll let you
no,
respect them.
that's
for
the
sure.
rest of the world that has to do that.
All right. So, speaking of hot golf, we'll go on to some hot baseball. The Braves are 7 in a row.
Smoking.
We said on here a couple of weeks ago, I said, well, they're only 10 games above 500, and that's where they were 14 games into the season. Well, now they're another 10 games over 500.
21 games above
21
500
games above
right
500. So,
what can you do?
Best record in the National League, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
Closing in on the American League as well. We're only 5 behind the Rays, and obviously the Rays started out so hot, 18-2 or something like that. So they've lost a lot of ground on us as well. One thing for how hot Acuna is this week, he is currently on pace to become the first ever 30-60. 30 homers,
I heard that
60
yesterday,
stolen
yeah.
bases. There's only been 30-50 done twice. And there's a reason why I'm staring at you. This is your
no.
ATI question of the day. Who are the two guys who have hit 30 homers and 50 steals in a single season?
Ooh. Can I play after ATI?
Sure. Because his music is
You know
almost
I
done.
don't know baseball.
Then throw out 2 names and we'll move along.
Aaron Judge and Babe Ruth.
Yes,
Oh,
because
yeah.
those are
Yeah.
2
They're
quick,
speedsters.
fleet of foot.
I would have to
I'm gonna take a
say
stab
Ricky Henderson,
That's a great guess. Wrong.
King Griffey Jr.
That's another great guess. Wrong.
Vince Coleman.
Nope. Because Vince Coleman doesn't. Vince Coleman could steal out the wazoo, but 30 home runs is pretty hard.
Barry Bonds.
Mr. Bonds, absolutely.
Does he
And-
count though?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Well, no,
count.
actually, he does, just for the record, because he did that with the Pirates before he started taking all the human growth hormones. So,
All right, I'll give him that.
As long as it's not a giant record or a longevity record, you can give him some of those old Pittsburgh things because he was about that big around.
Well, Lou Brock didn't hit 30 home runs.
Nope. But boy, could he steal.
He could still.
And the other one's Eric Davis.
Oh, yeah, Cincinnati Reds.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
A much forgotten star
77
player.
or something like that. Around there. What year?
No. 77 would be Ken Griffey Jr. winning for the Reds, but no, he late
83,
80s,
something like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
late 80s,
Yeah.
early 90s.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good trivia question. I like that.
And then our 400 update. We had an update while you were gone about how difficult it is to hit 400, and I wasn't going to talk about it again because there was no chance he was ever going to be there again. But look at him again. Luis Arias for the Marlins is currently at 398.
So I'm guessing this week he'll hit 400.
Well, he was at 400 a couple days ago, but for him
Oh,
to
you're
get
talking about average. I thought you were talking about home runs.
no,
over his
yes,
career.
average for the season.
Yeah.
So, but in the last week, he's got a 5-hit game, another 5-hit game, a 2-hit game. It's so impossible to maintain the average. Acuna has the second best average in all of baseball, and he's 77 points behind
this
him.
guy?
Yeah.
It's a breath of fresh air, honestly. In a day and age where the long ball is prevalent, it's so nice to see a guy taking the ball backside.
Well, and he's a contact hitter who doesn't strike out. And if you want to ever hit 400, you can't close your eyes and swing. And it's impressive. And he's going to have more walks than he will have strikeouts this year, which is unheard of as well for this point in time.
That's crazy. And baseball is in need of something like this because it's still kind of like not the exciting sport that NFL is and all.
Unless you got Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yeah.
I mean,
Who some people posted today is the greatest baseball player in the world. I don't know about
he's
that,
currently,
but he's pretty good.
there's no doubt
Might be
he's
Dylan Cruz. Might be Dylan Cruz.
Yeah.
He's currently the greatest player in the world. Now, he's going to have to do it for a little while longer to move up that all-time list. But, the only other problem with Arias hitting 400 is he's a stinking Marlin, and nobody cares about the Marlins.
Marlins, yeah.
People in South Florida don't even watch the Marlins. So
Yeah.
it does make it difficult.
All right, so we briefly talked about, and the Braves got, they got 2 more games with the Phillies,
Two more
right?
games with the Phils.
And then they go to Cincinnati, who's also very hot. Cincinnati's
Very
won
hot.
9 or 10 in a row, something
Cincinnati
like
traded away, I'll use air quotes in case you're just listening, all their good players a few years ago. And you never know what you're going to get when you trading for 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. But theirs was really good. They've had quite a haul, and they've been bringing up all of their minor leaguers. They've got one more to come. Encarnacion Strand should be on his way, but they look like they could be a fun team if they pony up and keep them around for a little while.
that. And they're in the league in the Central, right? I think so.
They are what?
They're in the lead in the Central Division.
That is correct. They're 5 games above 500 with a 1-game lead over the Brewers. But, going with run differential, just for the record, they're still minus 16 on the season. The Brewers right behind them are minus 22.
And the Braves are over 100, aren't they?
Over 100,
Plus
yes,
run
sir.
differential, yeah.
Yeah, I think what's exciting going back to the Braves is the fact that they're doing it with the long ball, where they first or second in home runs in the league, first or second in pretty much every offense category. But the fact that Austin Riley, you got 7 guys in double digits home runs, and Austin Riley's got 11. You know he's going to turn it on.
Oh, absolutely.
And their bullpen and their starting rotation, obviously been a little banged up, but as that comes around, match it with this offense, Acuna staying healthy, you're looking at a pretty special team. And I'd argue with anybody that the Rays, while they are pound for pound, air quotes, best team in the league, their strength of schedule hasn't been what the Braves have had to go through.
Definitely not. And we have I don't want to say thoroughbreds, but we've got guys who have proven they can do it night in, night out, year in, year out. So it's a little different when the Rays try to wow you with their new guys that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging because right now the Braves, was their record better on the road right now than is at home?
Correct.
You know that's going to
was
shift
for a while.
as well.
That'll shift, yeah.
So
All right, cool. Well, we talked a little bit about the College World Series. We got LSU and Wake going at 7 tonight. We're going to spend more time on it, but we need to get into a commercial. And Mr. Alvin Jameson.
Hey, Alvin Jameson here, the mortgage guy. Are you looking to get pre-approved for a home loan? Or maybe you want to build a house from the ground up? Are you curious, or better yet, is your significant other on your back about making renovations in your current home? Call me. I have options for you. All self-employed individuals. Are you torn between writing off all your income or having to show your income to qualify for a house? I have a third alternative for you. Whether you're a W-2 employee, self-employed individual looking to do a purchase or pull money out of your current house, or better yet, we can't forget the investors out there. If you have that high interest rate, hard money loan and looking to refinance out of it, again, give me a call. I have options. Below are the states that I'm personally licensed in. Call me, 404-587-9033. Again, 404-587-9033. Visit the website, alvinjameson.com.
Thanks, Alvin, for being the sponsor of the Three Guys Who Love Sports, as well as the Owls Who Live Sports, which will be coming on about 7 o'clock. Not about 7 o'clock, at 7 o'clock tonight.
He's got a voice made of velvet.
Doesn't he?
That Alvin Jameson.
That Alvin Jameson, he's a good guy. And he said he has options. We have options. So we started something a few weeks ago, I guess 10 weeks ago.
Actually, a little bit more than that. I
Yeah,
think
because we
skipped
skipped a couple of weeks. About who is the greatest athlete that ever wore this jersey number. And this week we're up to jersey number 10. So there are options. Oh, I like that. We need to do that every week. Do it again.
Dun, dun, dun.
Number 10. All right. So there are some options here. Pele comes to mind.
Football.
Football is very, very. Oh, wait, that's a different game. Yeah. We have Chipper Jones. We have
Larry.
Walt Clyde Frazier. We have Tyreek Hill. DeAndre Hopkins, Eli Manning, Fran Tarkenton, and Earl Monroe. And ATI also
And
mentioned Lionel Messi.
You put DeAndre Hopkins on that list.
I
but
did
you
not.
didn't put Messi on that
Because
list.
Ranker.com did not have Messi on their list.
Ranker.com is wrong.
Their rank. Is that what you're saying?
They're wrong.
They're
You
right.
can't put DeAndre Hopkins on that list and not have Lionel
He
Messi.
he sounds a little.
Then Ranker is wrong, not me. I just typed.
I'm going to give him a valid point when DeAndre Hopkins is on any list. It's like we can't even get that guy to show up. So
Hey, maybe this list is just people who don't have jobs right now. I mean,
Wow.
outside of Tyreek Hill, no one on this. So maybe that's the reason Messi.
Yeah, well, Messi's in there, but it took one stat for me to make my pick this week. Scored a goal in almost every game he played. He averaged almost one goal for every game he ever played in. My pick for this week is Pele. I'll never pick another soccer player again either, but this week is Pele. And I love Walt Frazier. I mean,
Clyde.
When I was a teenager, I had 3 T-shirts. One said Joe Willie, one said Pistol Pete, and the other one said Clyde. And that was the only 3 T-shirts I wore for like 3 years. So that's what I wore. But I don't think I'll ever be able to pick a soccer player again. So I'm going to go with Pele.
hard to argue with it.
Most
Yeah.
popular sport in the world.
Yeah, that's
But
what they say.
I'm over here. I'm with Messi.
I'm going with Messi.
It just gets the people out of their seats.
It just seems too messy to me.
You know what's crazy is that the first 2 picks on this show have both been football players. So you're a Messi guy? You're going Messi?
I'm gonna go Messi.
He's pretty clean. He's got a neat little area over here.
Yeah, those LSU guys clean up okay
Yeah, that's all right.
sometimes.
Sometimes.
So,
That's right.
What say ye? Because I know, although you just agreed
you
with
just
him,
said
yes,
Messi.
Messi.
You know,
He's
I know,
Messi.
I know that's not your
really
answer.
wanted to pick Dario Franchitti this week. He's 5-time
He's a big
IndyCar,
race car
5-time
driver.
IndyCar champion, 3-time Indy 500 champion.
However,
But I'm gonna go with Messi because he is the GOAT.
Race car drivers, athletes or not.
I'm an insurance agent, so I don't like when guys drive too fast, so I can't pick them.
All right, that makes sense.
that's a good answer.
Now,
That's good.
and I think I know who Robert's going to take, but there are a lot of pretty good athletes on this list.
Very good athletes.
Wasn't
on
as
this.
hard for me to pick as 9 and 10. I mean, as 8 and 9.
I think it's going to start getting easier. Honestly,
Oh, no.
once you get to like 11, that top 10 is pretty tough. It's packed.
12 is going to be tough.
12's a no-brainer.
12 and
Oh, no, it's
14.
not.
12 and
14
14
's easy.
make it interesting.
We'll worry about 12 and 14 when we get to it. 10, I considered Eli Manning only because he won 2 world championships,
You did.
2 NFL championships. Like I said, I love Walt Frazier. He did some great things. I think 7 times, won two championships and was 7-time All-Star. Good athlete, great basketball player, but
And he always does, in case you don't know who Walt Clyde Frazier, he does all the hair color by man commercials. So it's like, oh, that old guy. Yeah, that's him. He used to be really good with The Rock.
and Earl the Pearl Monroe, he
Earl
was
the
number
Pearl.
10. He was a good athlete.
I want to talk about Larry for a minute.
I knew you would.
His mama called him Larry. I'm going to call him Larry. Now, he might have been called Chipper later
Does
on.
that mean you're a mother too?
I am. I've been called a mother. Larry Jones joined the Braves. He was supposed to join the team in '94 during the strike shortened year, but he hurt himself, so he wasn't able to have his rookie season until '95, and he won a World Series in his very first season. Then his second season, we were getting ready to get bounced out. Won 3 in a row against the Cards to go up to New York. Took games 1 and 2. And although I was not on that plane ride back from LaGuardia, I have always held him accountable for why the Braves lost that 96 World Series. I think a sophomore who just thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to win every year. This is how easy it is. And then, of course, we dropped 4 straight. He went on to have an MVP year in 2000. He's a great ball player. But all that being said, he was my favorite number 10 to ever watch. But he's not the greatest 10 to ever be an athlete.
Best switch hitter of all time?
Second best behind Mick.
Okay.
Unbelievable what he was able to do with his career. And thankfully, he's one of those people that it's getting harder and harder to say, man, this guy spent his entire career with this team. That's a beautiful thing. But we were talking about 10, and Adam said something about 10 last week. Who gets 10 on a soccer team?
Probably one of the strikers.
But also the best player on the team.
Yes, Christian Pulisic is
Why
10.
is that? Who wore 10 that made 10?
Pele.
That's it. So if he made 10, he's the reason why Messi wants to wear 10. And, we talk about what Messi's doing currently in Miami and comparing it to what Beckham did in L.A. 25 years ago about bringing soccer. Oh, no. Pele came to the New Jersey Cosmos in 1976. He was our first attempt at grabbing some old guy who was probably past his prime. But, in life, I don't care what you do for a living. If you're ever known as a single name, Tiger, Cher, Sting.
We have to put Cher in there.
We do because she's a one-name person. You can throw Madonna in there.
I'd rather have Madonna than Cher.
Well, Madonna didn't have an Adam's apple, so I completely agree with you on that. But Pele is Pele for a reason. He's the greatest soccer player ever. An incredible life as far as humanitarian efforts, everything else. And I'll never forget something my mom told me, and I know I've shared on the show before. There's only a handful of people that you could go to deep inside the Congo or remote in Mongolia or China and say, who's that person? That's Muhammad Ali. Who's this person? That's Pele. The other two would be Tiger and...
I think I'd like to be here when y'all do number 23 then.
23 is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
But I'm going Pele.
So you and I agree?
Correct. He won 3 World Cups. You think about 3 World Cups. Nobody's around long enough to play for 3 champion World Cups. This guy, half the things that you're wowed about watching other people, he invented those moves, as a young child. So just unbelievable. And how about that?
Well,
This show just picked 2 soccer players in 4 positions, and that covers number 10.
That does cover number 10. But I want to do a little comparison. If you score a run a game in baseball, is 162 runs a lot to score
That's an
in a year?
insane amount.
Yeah.
Insane amount. Usually the league leader is going to be probably around 115, 120.
Yeah. So that's what made me feel like scoring almost a goal a game was so impressive.
It's mind-boggling because, you got to also probably factor in as he got older, he wasn't scoring 1 a game, which meant he had a heck of a lead, and it still allowed him to keep it.
Messi did the same thing with Barcelona. He played 520 games. He scored 474 goals. So
Yeah, that's
he
45 away from doing what Pele actually did, though.
It's fair to say, too.
I think that's a generational thing, and I really believe that. I mean, I think that's why ATI feels that way about Messi for the same reason we feel about Pele.
Well,
I mean, he was the guy when we were your age. Yeah.
No, he definitely wasn't the guy when I was his age. He was 5 when he went to the. I was
He was
5
15 when he started playing.
I was 5 when he went to the Cosmos, and he only played there for a couple of years. So I didn't watch any of this stuff. But you go back and you watch those old black and whites of the bicycle kicks in the World Cup, where everybody's like, "What just happened?" For a sport that's been around for 2,000 years. He changed it.
Yeah,
Incredibly.
I think it's a fantastic point too that you have the discussion, what's an athlete? And I think soccer is one of those sports like Wilt Chamberlain scoring all those points, getting all those rebounds, but you see the footage, he's a foot taller than everybody else. Soccer's not one of those sports. Soccer is soccer. No
Everybody
matter
is
what.
pretty much the same size.
There's a lot of parity.
Yeah.
It's impressive what the football guys can do.
Yep. So we have 2 Messis and 2 Pelés.
That's correct.
That's not a bad thing. I'll say this is probably the only number that we have that any soccer player has taken. It was to your point.
It will be by this panel. I can't believe old ATI decided to not go with a steering wheel.
I had a race car driver of the week.
You
It was
did.
Dario Franchitti.
Dario Franchitti. Okay. But he doesn't count. You only have 1. You
I know,
can't
but
do it. Yeah.
I'm keeping the tradition going.
All right. Go Georgia Fire Academy. Thanks for coming in. All right. So it's time to get to our second commercial. Let's talk about Bearcat Express.
Do you need a delivery right now? As in go now, please? Bearcat Express has expedited shipping on hand-carried items, car, van, or pickup. Whether it's from Atlanta to Athens, Dothan to Augusta, Memphis to Charlotte, and all points in between, we've got the drivers to get your stuff where it needs to be. Whether your passport's still on the dresser, your 5-wood isn't in your bag, or you have a dog that hates to fly, Bearcat Express with their live tracking capabilities is the team to turn to. We are the go-to courier in the Southeast. Check us out at BearcatExpress.com.
And thank you, Blair Cook, for being a sponsor of the Three Guys Who Love Sports and the Owls Who Live Sports again, coming up at 7. And he talked about dogs. I actually watched a replay of the 2005 LSU UGA SEC championship game. Have you watched that recently?
I don't go in the past.
Oh, okay.
I'm always looking.
There you go. All right.
So wait, hold on. If you won the national title and won all those games, then you might watch it.
I rewatch all the wins.
just trying to clear that little
You're
part
just
out.
making that part clear. All right, so we're going to talk a little SEC football today. A lot different schedule for the Dogs this year than what they have next year. I've already had friends crying and complaining about, well, Alabama gets to play Vanderbilt next year. I said, well, how many years you been playing Vanderbilt? Every year of your stinking existence. So what's wrong with Alabama playing them one year and you not? So Georgia's already setting themselves up for this three-peat thing. I mean, they play nobody this year. 3 of their 4 games are literally nobody. Tennessee School of the Blind, Amputee Tech of North Carolina, something like that.
They play ball. Ball isn't even a state.
Let's stop. Let's just slow that roll for a second. You're making it sound as if they just came up with the schedule, which of course is something they do years ahead of time. Sure. So you didn't give
Typically.
them. You didn't mess with 2 years ago schedule and last year's schedule. Yeah, it's a cupcake, but you know, SEC games are very difficult. As opposed to what, playing Rutgers?
Well, I think
Are we talking about playing Kansas again? You talking Kansas? You talking Arizona State? I mean, when you want to compare
Kansas is good.
the fluff of a conference, the fluff of the SEC is clearly better than everybody else's.
To be fair, they
Even
had
the Big
Oklahoma. The SEC brand protected themselves, removed Oklahoma from the schedule. You got to give them credit for scheduling that.
Absolutely, that was a heck of a home and away.
As an LSU fan, the cream rises to the top. So they'll face somebody along the way that'll test them, and they'll either meet the challenge or they won't.
Who?
Yeah.
How about
we're not talking about the Owls. What do you mean who?
Florida.
How about a quick nod to Oklahoma? You know, here's a team that went home and away with Ohio State and followed it up with a home and away with Georgia. You know, they're doing what everybody wants every team to do.
What's everything
How
to do.
quickly does that go away when they're in the SEC and they've got that SEC schedule? You know,
Immediately.
Don't want to play
Immediately.
USC. I don't want to play that one either. Yeah.
So, Matt, what do you think about the doing away of divisions?
I love it. It's going to create an opportunity to, you know, as a lifelong LSU fan, I never got to go to Athens to see us play. You know, it's once every 12 years. I absolutely love it. I think you're going to get to see better matchups, more unique matchups. You're going to get to see an opportunity for 2 teams coming in Texas and Oklahoma to immediately get tested across the entire Southeastern Conference, not just in one division. I'm all for it. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think, obviously, as the years have gone by in the last 20, 25 years, it's been a little lopsided in the divisions.
A little lopsided.
A little lopsided.
But they were lopsided in different ways. You know, if you go back to the 90s, you know, it was the East that was so lopsided. They had Florida, Tennessee, and Georgia. Nobody was worried about anything happening in the West, and then it turned hard, and it's been the other direction for a long time. But
Sure.
Well, until the last 2 years, but Georgia's really the cream of the crop in the East, or has been.
But
Yeah.
even in the last 2 years, where Georgia's got the hardware and everything else, the East has still been the easier side. The West is.
Well, iron sharpens
consistently
iron,
good.
too, because look what's happened. Georgia has gotten so elite that it's forced schools like South Carolina and Tennessee to step their game up. And I think that's a direct reflection of how good Georgia is, as you've seen Kentucky You've seen, Kentucky made a big splash in the portal. They're going to have a real quarterback.
Yeah.
That's no shedding any light on the quarterback they had last year, but they're going to have a legitimate thrower of the football, and they're going to have to change their philosophy a little bit to hang with Georgia.
No, you're absolutely right. When Georgia's good and nobody can get into Georgia because they're taking all these 5-star athletes from everywhere else, it opens up the doors for the 4-star athletes to start going to Columbia, Knoxville, Lexington, and, maybe someday Nashville. I don't know.
Maybe someday.
Whoa, slow down.
Whoa, I know. I just wanted to make sure you were paying attention.
I drove by their stadium a couple of weeks ago when I was in Nashville. I said, what a small stadium that is compared to the big house.
Yeah.
And
baseball season's over for
Bryant
them.
Denny Stadium. Yeah, it's crazy. I know we're talking mainly about the SEC. And, the Big Ten's going to no conferences too. Everybody's going to no conferences. I think it's so they can get more people in the playoffs, more teams in the playoffs. Because, I'll use Notre Dame as an example. I think Notre Dame is going to be a pretty good team this year. So who do they get? Who's their new quarterback? Hartman from Wake Forest transferred over there. Yeah. They've got 3 big games. They've got USC. I think they play Navy to start the season over in England. And they got Ohio State, and they've got one other game. If they win 2 of those 3 games, or even lose 2, they could be 10-2, and still be in the playoffs.
In 2 years, they would be.
Yeah. So, but even this year, if they lose 2 out of the if they win 2 out of those 3 games they have, USC's the other one, I think.
They play Navy. They play Ohio State, they play Duke, they play USC, they play Pitt, they play Clemson, they play Wake Forest.
Clemson.
They got Clemson.
Clemson was the other one.
USC, and Ohio State.
Yeah. So if they win 2 of those 3,
programs.
they're in the playoffs, I think.
I wouldn't argue with that. I grew up Catholic and liking the boys with the leprechaun. That's not going to happen. They're not winning 2 out of 3. They might be Navy in England, but that'll be about.
But
the
they've got probably what might be the best offensive line in the country.
And they probably have the best returning quarterback in the country outside of possibly the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
It's fair to say too that we were talking about Georgia's schedule. You gotta tip your cap to Notre Dame. They've probably got a tougher schedule than Georgia this year. That doesn't mean that they're a better or worse team.
Well,
they're gonna get tested.
Who doesn't have a tougher schedule than Georgia?
No,
That's
but
my
see,
question.
No, but you're just still looking at all the things because
What do you mean? What
You're
things are you talking about?
You told me all last year that clearly the all these conferences, top to bottom, were better. And they're not top to bottom better.
I didn't say all these conferences. I said Big Ten.
Rutgers, Illinois, Indiana are not good programs.
Purdue.
Hey,
I just had to throw that one.
I understand.
We were the West champions.
Hey, I do appreciate you saying that.
Sit down.
But, it's not the same as going to Starkville. Going to Starkville is much more difficult than going to Champaign. And, as far as the 2 divisions, the Big Ten had to, because they've been so loaded in the one side. They have Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan on one side.
On the East.
And then you just look at the other side and you're like, who do they play? It's
Wisconsin.
like, big garbage fire on the other side.
Wisconsin's not a bad club.
Wisconsin and Nebraska.
The Golden Gophers
Purdue.
have been good.
Purdue.
And Minnesota.
Well, in the West.
Which is why it's a one-conference thing. And I think one conference is good. Let me ask you this. Are you ready for the 9-game schedule? Is the 8-game schedule is not going to work? Do you know all about that? And
I don't think we're done expanding. I think that you're going to see now the powers to be, the media may stop that. You may see the Pac-12. It's not 12 teams. You may see them stay together and maybe be able to, come together and somebody back them to keep
Absolutely.
it. But as we see the conferences expand, because I think college football has an SEC problem, and that's a good thing if you're an SEC fan. But the rest of the country also enjoys playing football and watching football. So as we keep growing, we'll just kind of see. I think it's inevitable you're going to see 9-game schedules because you're going to get teams with potentially 4 losses in a couple of years maybe make the playoffs.
Make the playoffs,
But can I point out the Big Ten has had a 9-game schedule for like the last 10 years.
no.
I would have to look at that.
Because their schedule is still not. The idea behind the 9-game schedule is you get to play 3 all the time, and the other 6 rotate to where you're playing everybody
every other year.
Yes, we
You didn't have that many teams though, so it's
we play
different.
we've still played a 9-game conference schedule for like the last 10 years.
Well, once the SEC goes that way, it's going to be so nice because then all of a sudden everything is apples to apples. Yes, you're still going to have those outside liar games, but you know, I was watching something the other day, and I started doing research on LSU football. Actually, before I knew you were going to be on the show. But do you know who one of LSU's longest rivals in the history of college football is, Chuck? Played them all the time. Tulane, this guy.
Larry's a Tulane grad.
Do you know why they don't play Tulane anymore?
Because Tulane is trash.
They're not in the SEC anymore. They were in the SEC.
No,
Georgia Tech was in the SEC when Tulane was in there.
because well, you know, they
Well, here comes Larry.
they stiffed them.
Tulane was the last team to leave the SEC.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Boy,
You know?
that was a mistake.
But you know, when you look at it, but is that a good game? So if that game's no good, and I preface this, I'll start with this. I remember about 15 years ago there was a thing that went around to all the SEC schools, and they wanted to know who your 3 biggest rivals were. And they went through, and then they asked Florida the question. And you know what who let Florida left off the list?
Georgia.
Because Georgia hadn't beat them. I mean, to be a rival, you've got to beat somebody. So we can remember how good those Yellow Jackets were in the 70s when they were beating up on the Bulldogs. But at the end of the day, when you start looking at these big rivalry games, whether it's LSU and Tulane, whether it's Georgia Tech, obviously Alabama, Auburn never counts because they'd play that game no matter if they were in Timbuktu. How close are you to losing these games? Georgia Tech, they're not in the same conference.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Same with Clemson, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina's been so bad for so many years that Clemson's just
Correct.
rolled them over.
You can look at Kentucky and say, well, Louisville, Kentucky, they probably went 5-5 in the last 10 years. Okay, that's good to go. But you know, the one thing that it sounds like is nobody's really wanting to put their name on it.
Well,
you know,
think,
you're
flip
the
side.
reason why we don't play Georgia Tech anymore.
Think about playing devil's advocate. How close are you to recreating some rivalries again, like Texas A&M? You know, seeing something like that come back.
Oh,
Seeing
absolutely.
You never know. Oklahoma and Florida might spark up some intense rivalry that we have not seen yet.
Since
Correct.
Oklahoma and Nebraska, which used to be the number one game in the
But
country.
there you go. That's another one. Oklahoma, Nebraska, where that was year in, year out. You knew you were going to get that game.
Yep.
It's kind of sad to know that those games are going by the wayside.
You'll lose something, but you'll gain things that we aren't even thinking about right now. And to be fair, the 9-game schedule will be fantastic. The Big Ten may not want to hear this, but a Big Ten 9-game schedule for the last 15 years isn't even an 8-game SEC schedule
Nope.
for the last 15 years. So they needed the 9-game schedule to create that same competitive environment that we were already getting in the SEC. So.
Robert's got a new fan. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, college football is heading towards, I think, 4 conferences, probably within 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think the ACC is going to hang in there, but it's going to bring some other people in, like maybe the Pac-12. I know they talked about maybe merging with them. So it could be the Pac-10, the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, and the ACC, and that's it.
Yeah.
And everybody's just absorbed to those teams, whether it be 20 teams, 16 teams, or whatever.
You know, how many teams have won the national championship since 1970?
I would probably say less than 30.
It's 22.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're talking about this mega conference and you start, well, you know, we can't leave this team out. Well, no, there's probably a few teams that came kind of close a couple times. There could have been somebody else, but there wasn't. Yeah. And in 22, and in 53 years, you've had 22. You know, that mega conference, I'm not a fan of it. I do not want to see it.
I'm not either, but I think it's coming.
It is going in that direction big time.
And we have to embrace it. I mean, this year you may see more parity than you ever seen this year. I think you've got a really good crop of good teams. How many elite teams do we have? To be determined. But the transfer portal, love it or hate it, it's created some competitive environments that you'll see some schools who you may not think are good on paper compete in a way that we've never seen before. So the fact is that college baseball is the only sport, and in college basketball to a degree, where you can look on paper and you may have 20 teams that could win the World Series every year. Oral Roberts is a beautiful case.
Example, yeah.
Absolutely.
Coastal Carolina a couple years ago winning the national championship. Could Coastal Carolina win the national championship in football?
They couldn't even make a dent in.
They might make a 12-team playoff.
But that's what makes me nervous.
No,
Who-
if you're given sympathy votes, then they could make a 12-team playoff.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
It's kind of like Cincinnati when everybody wants to invite Cinderella to the party, but there's only been four tables for a long time.
it's-
But when we get to 12, and I'm sorry, Alan, when we get to 12 teams, it's always going to be, well, we were 13th, we should have been. It doesn't matter if there's 4 or 5's
Absolutely.
going to scream, if it's 8, 9's going to scream. So it's not going to change. The good thing is what Matt said earlier. People love football.
Yeah.
And, that's the greatest thing about Kennesaw State's football program. When they get up to Conference USA and they're playing on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights, people are going to be watching because people love football.
Sure.
And that's how we're going to get the brand awareness. And I say Kennesaw State, that's how they're going to get more recognition than they've had before by people watching football on Tuesday and Wednesday nights because they love football.
At the end of the day, the goal is to win a national championship. So these schools, like, again, Cincinnati got in, but then they got beat. What if they got in 4 or 5 times in a row and they just keep getting beat? Oklahoma
Notre Dame.
keeps getting in, keeps getting
TCU
beat.
is a good example. They got
At the end
in,
of the
they got
day,
hammered.
they're going to get tired of the pat on the back for, hey, you made it. The goal is to win the championship, and realistically, we don't have a lot of teams that can win
No,
the national
But
championship.
No, we don't.
Cincinnati didn't play that bad in that game. They were in the game
They didn't,
for
but
3 quarters.
But
But they lost.
this
They
is the key.
did.
When you only have 4 chairs at the table, it's hard to let Cincinnati in. It's hard to let these
Yes.
others. Once it expands to 12, we're gonna let a couple Cinderellas in. But when Cinderella gets pounded by somebody and it looks really bad, and then you see the team that pounded them lose that poorly the following week, so you know how far the difference is between the haves and the have-nots. It's gonna be a lot.
But in the end, when it comes down to the 4 teams, even though we start with 12, it's going to be the same 4 teams.
Sure.
More than likely.
I love the new format where they're planning on the top 4 get a bye and 5 plays 12 and everything. It's going to be exciting, but once again, when and I don't want to say the Ducks because the Ducks were probably as close to that 23rd team to win a title over Auburn, but there's so many small schools that people want to win. Coastal Carolina, you made mention of them. They had they were 13-1 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They're not going to fare well against the number 5 seed in this.
But UCF declared themselves the national champions when they went undefeated, right?
But what if some of these schools, like the UCFs and the Cincinnatis of the world, or Houston, who do have the funds to maybe take that next step, it's going to force athletic departments to either invest heavily or draw back because it's like, hey, can we take that next step, join one of those big 4 conferences, and become a contender?
Houston and UCF are joining the Big 12.
Yeah.
Sure.
So they'll become more competitive.
They'll be absorbed into this big scheme
Absolutely.
of things.
The same way better players are going to KSU, better players will be going to those schools as well.
Yeah.
But the difference is so mind-boggling.
Well, let's continue this college conversation instead of moving on to the NFL. But let's get our last commercial in. I think we owe Modern Image some time.
Modern Image. Modern Image is a locally owned document and photograph scanning company that helps clients secure and use paper files and photos. Whether it's important business files or sentimental family photos and videos, Modern Image is dedicated to helping clients solve problems around paper.
Go Dogs. I'm required to say that. I don't want to. Yeah, okay. All right. So, is the answer to this parity in college football is a transfer portal. I mean, it's happening every day. People are leaving here for there. I mean, I didn't think Hartman would leave Wake Forest. He had a pretty good deal there.
For the portal to work, Notre Dame could possibly be on the best transfer ever through the portal because they have a decent team and now they've got a really good quarterback. But to all these other teams that are, the Colorados of the world where it's okay, everybody's going to transfer in. We're going to have us a great team.
The coach without a foot.
No, they're not. They're not going to be good. You can't have that many people transfer over. It just won't work.
Well, I think there was a team in 2018 that had a pretty good team. They got a good quarterback transferred in, and the next year something happened. Y'all remember 2019?
I remember when Maryland had Tua's brother.
Tulia. They still have Tulia.
But you know,
Still there.
he came over, and then there was like a wide receiver. He was the second best guy in the Big 12. He transferred from Oklahoma State, and it was like, you know, this is how it could happen. But they got 3 star players, and they don't have any of the people in the trenches.
I know you're talking about Joe Burrow
Talking about Joe Burrow.
coming to LSU. Yeah, from Ohio State, right?
And I think people are trying to obviously always catch that. But, Justin Fields going to Ohio State, just because you don't win the national championship, it's still success. It was a great success for both ends. I think there's a place for the transfer portal. Does it get out of hand sometimes? Absolutely. I mean, anything we do, and when you start involving money and NIL deals, things are going to get out of whack a little bit. But for the core players that are actually going out and doing it for the right reasons, looking for a place to play, that's when it truly works out. So.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan because to me, old school, I'm quitting. I didn't get my rock. I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even now the one like transfer that I really understand is the softball pitcher girl's name, Jordan Ball from Oklahoma. She's from Nebraska. She said, "I love my time in Oklahoma. I want to go home and pitch for my home state." I get that, but not, hey, this guy's giving me a Hyundai and this guy will give me a Porsche.
Although she's going to get a Hyundai and a Porsche.
She's going to get anything she wants in Nebraska. But that's my point. I say it every week when we talk about the Be True to Your School, the old Beach Boys song. Be true to your school. Stay where you say you're going to go.
Yeah.
But again, like we talked earlier, that's not the way of college football anymore.
And it hasn't been the way of college football. It's only been that way for college football players. We've been watching the coaches ditch these kids left and right, promising the world about anything and everything, and then just dropping a kid off at the bus station. And the problem is that the players are doing it to the coaches. How dare they?
I know it.
I don't think it's ever going to be enough. It's as long as it's a good team getting a good player, it can make a really big difference. But I don't think anybody's rebuilding a program like what Prime thinks he's going to do in Colorado. I just don't think that's even
He can't even rebuild his foot.
tangible.
No, football is one of those sports. I mean, the chemistry is so important. So at the core of it, you got to build it with freshmen. Can you sprinkle in some transfers that need positions? Absolutely.
Sure.
And I think that will be where you'll see the portal continue to have success. But, as these conferences kind of keep growing, expanding, and teams get more money, the small schools will be able to catch up. You'll be able to close that gap. You may see a Louisville close the gap with an SEC school one day, like a Kentucky, maybe have the funds that Kentucky's getting from the SEC.
Is it going to take that one transfer, or is it going to take more?
It'll take years of building a freshman class, I believe. But if you sprinkle in a transfer here and there to really get your name out there, absolutely. Now, will you see a Louisville, for instance, become Georgia overnight? Absolutely not. You have to build that with freshmen, and I think that's just going to be the way of the future. And again, football is just not a sport where you're going to see a ton of parity. It's just not going to happen.
Not at this level.
No.
Well, I think that's changing with this conference thing, but we'll see. I know a great thing for Stormy, Robert's wife. If she went over to Athens and opened up her driving school over there, she might do really well because I think Kirby needs to get all his players into the driving school.
They can probably just get drivers to drive them around everywhere.
Oh, there you go.
That's the
NIL
amazing
money. There
part.
you go. Yeah.
Why anybody who is getting ready to be drafted by any sport is doing these stupid things and driving themselves, I'll never know. Let me ask you this. I said last year before your season started that this was going to be the best locker room your new coach has ever seen. What position do you need right now to put you over the top?
You talking about LSU, obviously.
Yes,
Brian
sir.
Kelly's locker room vibe. He's having so much fun. From everything you read, you see, everybody made fun of him in the beginning of last year for the family thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, he's just having fun. I think he's letting loose. But what he's known for is building that offensive line. So what they've continued to do is try to add beef to that line, along with bringing in coaches who can give the proper technique, because in the SEC it starts in the line of scrimmage. I mean, it's great to see these guys running 4.3 40s. It's great to see the quarterback be able to throw it 80 yards like Joe Milton. But at the end of the day, the best SEC programs, the Alabamas and the Georgias.
Hand it left, hand it right.
Right. At the end of the day, when there's 8 minutes left and you're up by 7, can you end the game?
Absolutely.
And that's where I think, for at least for my Tigers, I think that's where I think we're going to have to take the big step this year. And we did a good job last year. It was very surprising, but
You guys did way better than I expected.
Absolutely.
And I've always made fun of LSU for this reason, that you have all the players at every position except for one. And I don't know how you're not able to recruit when you have all the lines, all the linebackers, all the running backs, all the everything. How can you not go into somebody's house in Texas, California, Pennsylvania or something, go, all I need you to do is throw it 30 times a game. Everything else is going to be great. And they've never been able to. I think Brian Kelly's going to bring that,
Sure. Well, and I would argue the fact that, even back to Les Miles, we were always an average top 10 recruiting class. That's, you can build a pretty good fence around the state of Louisiana. We don't have a natural rival in the state. You're not seeing Louisiana Tech taking LSU players.
Tulane's
Or
gone.
Lafayette, or Tulane.
But at the end of the day, Brian Kelly's got the presence to continue to build off of it. I'll take you back a few years when obviously we won the national championship with Matt Flynn. Ryan Perrilloux was supposed to be our next guy, right? And then he gets in trouble, gets let go, and that threw our quarterback, build into an absolute frenzy. We throw out Jarrett Lee. He has like 15 interceptions brought back to the house in 1 year. But
That was incredible how many times the guy threw pick sixes.
as an LSU fan with, guaranteed blood pressure issues one day, I'll take 3-4 national championships in my lifetime and some bad years to go along with it.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
But that's my burden to bear. Don't worry. But you don't have to come be an LSU fan yet.
Oh, no. Well, I was going to ask you, when they announced Brian Kelly was a coach, what were your feelings then, and how do you feel about him now?
It was mixed. It was Lincoln Riley, and then he comes out and says he's not going to be the coach. I'm like, that's fine. You don't play defense anyway. It was a shock, but what are you going to do? You support the guy, you support your program, and you hope for the best, and it worked out great.
And how did the people down? Now you're from Denham Springs, isn't that where you tell me you're
right
from?
outside Baton Rouge,
What a
yeah.
memory this guy has, huh? Yeah. So
Home of Ben McDonald.
yeah. So how did the people down there feel about Brian Kelly?
Same. It was very indifferent. How's this guy going to come, not and fit in? But I'd argue Nick Saban wasn't the guy on paper that fit in.
Absolutely.
Les Miles definitely did not fit in when he came down there. But you know what makes you fit in? Winning.
Winning takes care of all your
He
problems.
cures
Yep.
a lot of ills. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So how many wins this year for LSU?
I think it's 10 or more. I think if you can't get 10 out of this team, something happened because Jaden Daniels getting a lot of clout obviously going into this year, but we got a deep quarterback room. I have a lot of faith in Garrett Nussmeier too. I think in the SEC championship game he put on a show, and big arm. He's more the pocket presence that you see. So
Dinner's ready.
yeah,
Are you at Tuscaloosa this year?
I will physically be there. That's
No,
right.
but the game is at Tuscaloosa.
It is, and I will be there for the first time. Put myself right in the middle of it. Again, I told you I like to win, so I'm gonna put myself in a situation I think we can win.
It's funny. I've driven around the stadium in Baton Rouge, but I've never been to a game there. I bet it's crazy on
It's
a
electric.
Saturday night.
It's electric.
Especially at night.
And we were talking about the scheduling changes. One of the things a lot of people don't realize, because obviously Georgia and Florida, that's a natural, just nasty rivalry, right? So with LSU, it's going to stink if we don't get Florida more often. I mean, because that's been a pretty heated rivalry for
But
years.
that's your
That's the
natural
whole-
rivalry.
Yeah.
Our natural, people want to say Alabama, but you have to win some of the games to make that a rival. They controlled us for 10 years. So.
You are they're your rival, but you might
Right.
not be theirs.
Right,
I
right.
understand how that goes.
Right.
But if you're getting if it goes to a 9-game playoff and you have 3, I would think that it's going to be Florida, Bama, and then
A&M. A&M's that's a long term. That's something my dad even talked about, that A&M and LSU always have bad blood, and that's been very prevalent since they came back to the SEC. So
You know who's going to be sad? These Mississippi schools, because nobody's going to have them.
they'll just play each other 3 times.
Yeah, the Egg Bowl over
The
and over again. right? Yeah.
Egg Bowl. Hey, guess what? Your new rival is Missouri and Vanderbilt. I don't want to play
Now,
Missouri.
see,
and Vanderbilt.
that would be a good small division. Throw Missouri and maybe Arkansas is coming around. So yeah. All right. Well, I think we're up against the wall here. We are. We want to thank our friend Matt Fry for coming on today. Matt,
for
thank
having
you,
me.
buddy. It was a lot of fun. We always love our time here with Sean at Miller's Ale House, and we appreciate you being here. Don't forget, guys, know your numbers. Take care of yourselves. Cover your ass. Get your prostate checked. We'll see you next week on Three Guys Who Love Sports.